Welcome to the Earth's Edge podcast. I'm your host, James McManus. At Earth's Edge, we run guided expeditions with a focus on environmental and cultural sustainability. We created this podcast to share stories from people who have found the outdoors and fallen in love with adventure. Each month, we're giving away one of our summit jackets worth €150. To be in the running, all you need to do is subscribe to our mailing list at earths-edge.com/podcast. There's a link in the show notes. Now, for today's guest.
Whatever you're doing your day to day, you have to somewhat enjoy it. It has to be enjoyable. I didn't realise how much I loved the outdoors until the training prep for that. So when I was getting out on the hills, that's when I really realised how much I really love the outdoors. So Killy just reinforced that again.
That was Kirsty Cully, who climbed Kilimanjaro with us back in 2017. I wanted to share her story as she's a great example of someone who has used mountains to help her find meaning and happiness in her life. We chat about the porters on Kilimanjaro, learning to handstand, coaching, and what is so special about going on adventures. I start out asking her about her childhood, and she tells me how she didn't have a clue what to do when she left school. I really hope you guys enjoy this one.
I don't think there was many adventures, to be honest. I grew up in Drimnagh. When I was 10, my mum and dad moved from Drimnagh, so they went and moved all the way to Navan. And at the time, Navan was absolute countryside, so far away from all my friends. So I got to stay in school in Drimnagh, which meant that I was up at 5:30 in the morning, going to school, heading to Dublin for 6 a.m. every morning. Wasn't getting home till about 6 p.m, 6:30. I wanted to live in Dublin again. So my parents made a deal with me. They were like, you can move to Dublin, we'll pay for your rent if you go to college, right? So I was just like, right, grand. So I had to just pick a course that I'd deal with, Ended up picking computing in DIT and got to move to Ballyfermot then. So I was living in Ballyfermot. By December then, I just knew I didn't like college, and then my dad actually only worked around the corner for me from where I was living in Ballyfermot. So obviously him bringing me to school while we were in Navan, he was going to work in Ballyfermot, so we were all travelling to Dublin, so it was grand. But I ended up getting a job with him. He had someone leave the office there, and he was like, look, I know you're not enjoying college and whatever. Would you prefer to work? And I was just like, yeah, absolutely. So went and worked with him, sold floors for 4 years. Very, very random. And then there was the last kind of 2 years of living there. So I think year 3 of working there was the recession hit, big recession, and my hours got my days got cut, went from 5 days of work to 3 days of work, and of course money got tight, things like that. Came out of that slightly, but still I was making no money there, really no money. It was I was there about 4 years then before I went to Australia. Yeah. Then towards the end of Australia, I was coming home. I was like, right, I'm gonna go back to Dublin. It's about 3 weeks away from actually heading home, and a friend of mine from New Zealand rang and was like, I think you should come over here for a year. It's great crack. You'd love it. So I was just like, sounds good. I'll apply for the visa, see what happens. And with that, then I just rang everyone at home. I was like, not coming home, going to New Zealand now for a year. So booked a flight, went to New Zealand 3 weeks later, and then was in New Zealand for a year.
New Zealand is like a mecca for adventure sport. I think a great description of it is like Ireland on steroids. It's kind of similar in size and population, but just the mountains and everything is just bigger. It's just so amazing with the Alps down there and everything. It's a cracking place. I love it so much.
Oh, it's just beautiful. So we did the bus trips, and did all the crazy shit over there. We were on the bus, and every day you'd be in somewhere different. It'd be do you want to go climb a glacier? Do you want to go hike a glacier? Do you want to go jump out of a plane? Do you want to go bungee jumping? We did caving, just all the mad stuff that you never really get to do. We got to do it in the 3 weeks and 2 stints. So 3 weeks in April, 3 weeks in June. Absolutely loved it. So then I came home after the year was up. Now I had met someone towards the end of that stint in New Zealand. Then decided I was going to try and get back. So I had heard about this other visa you could get through a place called Bunac, and ended up getting a visa and going back over. So I was back over in New Zealand the following March, and I stayed over there for 2 years. Went on my first proper hike during those 2 years, which was, and I laugh about it now when I actually think about it. Right, we went and don't know if you're familiar with the Tongariro Crossing over there.
I don't think I've done it, but I've heard of it for sure. Yeah, it's like a 3-day hike. Yeah.
It's actually not. You could do it. You could do I think it's about 24 kilometers if memory serves me right. it's all sorts of like terrain. You get up there, like we went on one of the hottest days, 25 degrees, got absolutely scalded. But like when you're up there, there's snow-capped mountains, there's volcanic craters. Like you've literally got every single, like all these different terrains in 24K. So like you could do it in a day. Well, the ridge we did anyway, we did in a day. But oh, I'm not even kidding you, Jam. We went down with no hiking gear. Like we didn't see it as a hike. It was like, oh, it's going to be a long walk, right? Like runners, the lot. It's just funny when I think about it. And then we stopped at this little rental shop on the way in because there was signs for rental gear. We were like, maybe we should just, just inquire. Like we might need some gear here. Like no hiking boots, no nothing, just runners.
Yeah.
And
no sunscreen, getting burnt.
Oh, it was just madness. So the lady in the outdoor shop obviously was just like, look, at the very least, you're going to need to take a pair of boots with you and a rain jacket. So she rented us the boots and the rain jacket. And sure, when we got up there, we couldn't believe that they were going to let us on with runners. Like there's just no, there's no one there like to stop you or to advise you or anything. Did the Tongariro Crossing, absolutely loved this. That was the very first hike I'd been on. And then probably like started to get the bug there as well. So anyway, long story short, coming towards the end of my stint in New Zealand at that stage, I had kind of just wasn't happy, like really wasn't happy. The job I was in, worked with great people, but I was in recruitment and the sales element, hated it. Like it took me a while to figure out how much I really disliked it. By the end of that 2 years, well, all of my friends I had, most of them had gone back to Ireland. Then the relationship itself like fell apart. So I made a decision, like it was a bit of a sudden thing with the relationship really. And I think we broke up on the Monday or the Tuesday, and I literally had my flight booked out of there for Sunday. It was a quick cut, like I just had to get the hell out of there. So I left New Zealand, came home, and of course was heartbroken and sad and didn't know, like literally my life had changed in the space of 8 days. Like 8 days previous, I had been living in New Zealand for the long term, in a relationship, in a well-paid job, and all of a sudden I was back at home with my mum and dad in Ireland, not knowing what I was doing with life. Got home, was upside down, got working straight away. And then I had looked at Kilimanjaro, right? So while I was over in New Zealand after the Tongariro Crossing, I don't know how it came up. I had been looking at a trip, like I was like, oh, Kilimanjaro sounds interesting, And when I was Googling it at the time, it was like all these separate things. So the way you guys do it all in one package, it absolutely could. I never found anything like that, right? So it was kind of like when I was Googling it, it was like, oh, you need to hire porters and you need to like hire oxygen tanks and all these big things. I was like, Jesus, that's a big deal. And like from New Zealand as well, the flight, I think when I was like looking at it, I was probably racking up in my head about 6,000-7,000 New Zealand dollars to do this, right? So that was back when I was in New Zealand. Anyway, so that was a fleeting thought at the moment, right? So I came home here in November 2016, and I was on Facebook, and next of all, the little advert for like, we have a free info talk on Kilimanjaro. So it was Earth's Edge had come up, and it was you doing the info talk in Great Outdoors. It was like the following Tuesday night. So I was like, Jesus, that'd be interesting. Now, so of course, went onto the website, had a look around, was like, this sounds good. So booked it. I was like, gosh, look, I'll go to the info talk. What's the worst that can happen, right? So
listen to me for 45 minutes, because that's pretty bad, but anyway.
So anyway, I went out on the Tuesday, and I told people this, obviously. I was like, I'm going to go to this info talk. And they were like, what? Because they never knew I'd gone hiking. Like I wasn't, like as much as I loved doing the stuff in New Zealand, it was like, it looked like I was just doing the traveling piece. Like I didn't even realize how much I loved the outdoors at this point. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, when I said I'm thinking about going to Kilimanjaro, they were all just like, you were off your head. So went to the info talk, and I swear to God, I think I was only halfway into listening to you, Jam, and I was like, could literally physically feel the excitement. I was like, if I had the money there, I would have thrown it at you. Like I literally would have thrown it from the end of.
Jeez, you're making me sound like a cheap stripper,
Oh God, I was so excited then coming home, right? So I came home to my mum and dad, and of course they were like, how'd you get on? And I was just like, could not stop talking. Like I was just like, da, 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 da. So anyway, I was like, I gotta do it. And I think it was about 3.5K at the time or something, $4,000 maybe, something like that. So anyway, like I hadn't got any of that money. Like I'd literally spent every penny I had trying to get home, paying for my flight from New Zealand and trying to sort out rent and deposits and all that crap. So I literally had no money. Like, so I was just like, you know what? I don't care. I had like a credit card, for traveling in case you need to book any expensive flights or and pay them off. So I was like, look, we'll throw it on the credit card, So it was €400 deposit. And I said it to my mum and dad, it was like £400 to put the deposit down. So my mum and dad switched roles in this scenario. Like normally the two of them be very opposite. But when I went in, I was like, I'm going to book it. Like, that's it. Like, I'm so excited. I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. And my mum was like, do you know what? Do it. Like, you deserve it. Do it for yourself. If you really feel that passionate about it, do it, right? Then my dad was like, just sleep on it. Like, people don't always survive that mountain. He's like, I don't think you understand how big this hike is, right? Because I hadn't been hiking, like I hadn't been hiking at home or anything. So they were just like, you're mad, like going from 0 to 10. So my dad was like, look, it's going to be there in the morning. Please just sleep on it and book it tomorrow. So I was just like, against my better judgment, I was like, sure, look, it'll be there tomorrow. I'll book it tomorrow. So I'm pretty sure I booked it within a day or two, like just sorted the credit card situation and booked it. And then, so yeah, that was February, I think I booked it in, and would have been going that September. I booked it for. So I think everyone thought I was having a midlife crisis at the age of 26. I'd obviously just come home. I was all over the shop and people were like, you're mad. But I was like, I just have to do it. Like, I have to do something. I need to keep my focus on something. So I literally went onto Facebook and I joined like the hill walking club, went out with them once or twice, like found these random kind of outdoorsy people who are doing Facebook groups and taking people out to Glendalough. And, so one day a weekend, most weekends on the way on leading up to September, like I was just going out onto the hills with people.
Did you go on the training weekend? Yeah, the one that we put on.
I did, yes.
I think, but from what you're saying, it sounded like your kiddie trip came at a really good time for you. It's such a great thing to get away on an expedition and just get the headspace. So, talk to me about Kilimanjaro. How was that? It
just dulls the noise, like everything that you think you should be doing or you have to be doing, or just it strips you of everything. Like, it really does. It strips you of everything that's around you, and actually gives you the time and space, I think, to figure out who you are. Like, you've got so much of this time to yourself, and also you're with a team of people, and listening to other people's story as to what brought them to the mountain is always fascinating as well. Like, stories you never thought you'd ever hear. And I think you just, like I said, everything's stripped back, everybody is stripped back, and as you're walking and talking, there's things coming out that you probably would have never told anybody, and you're talking to a complete stranger about your deepest, darkest fears. But when you're just out walking, they don't seem like deep and dark, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you're able to talk about your story, like you're able to just talk from the heart way more when you're out and about. Like, I remember taking a couple of people out to the Spink one day, and 2 people from Dublin who had never been out to Glendalough, right? I was like, how have you never been out here? And the things they told me, like, the 2 of them didn't know each other. They were 2 separate friends. And I was like, I'm going out to Glendalough if anyone wants to come. These 2 people were like, oh, I'd love to go. So, and the stuff they spoke about, like, and I mean, talk about like suicide, like, really, really deep things that, some people would never get to share. And it's not like you're going to fix the problem on the mountain, but it just gives you the space and time to just talk about it. And then by the end of the hike, you can forget about it, or you can go do something about it afterwards. Like, but it's just, I think it just really takes people out of the shite around you, basically, like, and it takes away the judgment. It takes away what will somebody think. It takes away all those outside things, and people just feel free. Like, I think free mentally, physically. Kili was just one of those. Like, it was tough, right? It was a tough hike.
Hey, I was going to ask you, like, what do you think that is like about a big hike? Is it like nature? Is it the fact that you're like, on Kilimanjaro, you've got a lot of people you've got a shared goal. You're trying to get to the highest mountain in Africa. I think that's a big thing. And then also, like, the fact that you're having conversations with people and they don't have their phone, they're not distracted, they're just giving you their entire attention, and you are as well when you're listening to them. I think it's just such a special environment to have those conversations and really kind of learn about yourself, isn't it? It's amazing.
The people we met in Kilimanjaro, like from day one, in the first 24 hours, we were best buddies in the best sense, let's say. Like, but yeah, you are, like, I mean, you're all living on top of each other. People are, some people don't, end up getting sick. They're not well. And it's so supportive, like, you're not afraid to say you're not well, or you're not afraid to, just like that, just say how you feel, like, as in the porters over there, my God, like, I think it was my perspective on life. They changed it. Like, I think biggest part was like the guys there, like, we probably, I'm not going to say all of us, right? So some people would moan about getting up at 9 o'clock or getting up, the alarm goes off, like, oh, Jay's not in the mood for work, and you're walking into a job where you're getting very well paid, for, I know a lot of people do a lot of work, right? But you're sitting down, you're in your comfort zone, especially in offices now, you're ergonomic, everything. They look after your health, your safety, like, you've got everything looked after you. These guys get up and climb Kilimanjaro every morning as their job, right? And they lift all of the heavy bags, right? They lift your big bags, they carry all the equipment, the tents, everything, right? To make it comfortable for you. They cook unbelievable food. and they have a smile on their face from the time you see them first thing in the morning to the time to go to bed. And all you can think about, like all I thought about, my personal experience anyway, was like I had a decent job, right, when I went over there. Like they're probably making a fraction of the money I was making, you know, like, and the work they were doing every single day, and yet they were just happy, happy, happy. And it was contagious, you know, like the lads getting up dancing and singing in the morning. Just, I don't know, like that just completely changed everything. I'm like, how it really is, and we've all heard this a million times. It is the simple things,
like when someone hasn't been to Kili, their main focus is on like climbing the mountain and maybe going on safari and something like that. But it's interesting when you tell them like really the highlight is the porters, because they're just amazing people. Like just to connect with them, the dancing they do each morning and learning about their culture is just phenomenal. So it's only when people come back they're like, oh yeah, I get it. Like these guys are just amazing, you know. Come here. So you're talking a lot now about the chat with the porters and also the connections you get with other people on the trip. Like, let's get a bit of balance in here. Like, talk to me about Summit Day. How tough is that? You know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows on Kili. Like, give the listeners a fair assessment of that one.
No, look, it is tough. Like, it's not easy in terms of, like, even I remember you talking to us in the info talk about like how slow you're actually walking at times. You're walking terribly slow, but you're terribly tired. And it's like you could easily even fall into the thing of going, oh God, like, why am I so tired, and start to panic, you know, like. But again, it's just the talking, the chatting, getting to know people, I think just makes it easier. The summit night was very tough. We were given the option to put earphones in. I don't know whether everyone does that on every trip, right? So, you know, we were given the option to throw some earphones in if we wanted to just listen to music and just get the steps, right? So just watch your feet going forward, throw in some music and just keep on going. Because it's like, you know, you're climbing that summit if you start at like 1 a.m. At night time, and it's pitch black. You can't see it, but you can see this big trail of lights. So you can see all the people going up. But I remember as we're going up at the start, like you're very quickly seeing people being brought back off. So there's people getting very sick on the side of the trail. There's porters running people back down, obviously, you know, who are suffering from altitude sickness. So it's quite alarming at the start. Now, Louise was their guide at the time, and she was epic.
Yeah, Lou's a hero, you know?
Yeah, she really is. And now she well prepared us. Like she said, look, don't focus on what's going on outside, just focus on the 2 feet in front of you and just keep on going, right? So that was what we did. And that's why it's a bit of a blur. I remember listening to my music and literally just keep on walking. Now, I had overlayered myself, right? I'm sure you know Good Luck. Most people who go to Kilimanjaro know Good Luck. He was a little bit of a saviour. So, you know, I just kept walking and he kind of pulled me then. Like I noticed I was getting a bit warm. But of course, you just want to keep going, you know, you don't want to stop. You don't want to stop the whole through. We were coming up to Stella Point and the sunrise was just about to start. So that's where we all kind of, you know, they kind of just stop and you just wait a few minutes and you can just start to see the light peel up from behind, like from far away. But is that Mount Kenya in the background? I can't remember. There's like
Oh, that's Mount Meru, yeah.
So just like that, you just start to see the sun, and like that, everyone just stopped. Obviously took out the earphones, we all got a bit of water, a bit of food, and we just stood there and watched that sunrise, and it was just like the injection of life that you needed to get to the top. Because you know when you get to Stella Point, you see the sign and everyone's a little like, we're almost there. Then it's like, no, we're not. We still have another 40 minutes to an hour to go. It's like, oh God, so close, but yet so far.
Sometimes walking in the dark before sunrise is nice because you don't know how far you have to go. Like ignorance is bliss, you know.
It is, yeah.
What kind of impact did it have you when you got back, or did you make any big changes on the back of Kili, or what was the impact of the trip on you?
So yeah, I think after that entire experience, I kind of just, what I learned from the porters was that like you just have to keep it simple. Like you just have to do stuff, and it's not even like the cliche stuff of, you know, do what you love, like, but it's actually just whatever you're doing your day to day, like you have to somewhat enjoy it. Like it has to be enjoyable. I didn't realize how much I loved the outdoors until the training prep for that. So when I was getting out on the hills, that's when I really realized how much I really love the outdoors. So Kili just reinforced that again. When I got back then, I started to think about all these things, about what I want to do. And like, do I want to be in an office? No, I don't. Absolutely not. Like, that was a clear no. Like, I just started to sit with things, started to see what I enjoyed doing, started to try different things and just let go of the structure. Like, I had to let go of like the thought of like having to find someone to be in a relationship and having to get like a really secure job and having to get, you know, all these things that we just think we need. So I had to come out of that. I had to pull myself out of that a little bit. Booked Machu Picchu for the following year, got ready to go on that trip, and I was working in an office at the time, right? So it was grand because like that the job itself paid for the trips. But I was really, really struggling. Like, and I think when I came back from Kilimanjaro, the work life just got harder. Like, as in, just because I think I got a glimpse of something else, you know, like, as in, it just really reinforced the fact that I didn't want to be doing this. So anyway, long story short, yet again, I went to Peru with you guys then in October. Now, me and a friend of mine actually did. So we did the other Earth Edge option, and we met you guys there. So we were doing our own traveling trip around Peru, and we were doing Machu Picchu with you guys in the middle.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we had Mary that time, another absolute legend. Did Peru. That was contrast to Killy in terms of, like, it was tough. Yes, like, still similar, but it was a lot more kind of, I'd say, laid back. Like, where Killy is, you're just on the mountain. It is very kind of, it's a very intrinsic experience, I think, because you've got, like, you don't have much of the trappings around you. Whereas in Peru, when we were going through Machu Picchu, at certain points, there's like all these little huts where you could literally, like, buy food and drink. And, like, at one point, like, we were stopping at a little, like a little cocktail tiki bar. And but I think, if you laugh about that now, I think that's, we got diverted off the normal route because there was some sort of a landslide, or a possibility of a landslide. Sense. So we couldn't go down the normal route, so we took a different route. And on this route then, there was all these little huts all the way. So we had, like, passion fruit popsicles and stuff. So different experience. On Peru as well, again, we got very lucky with the weather at the very top. So we got up to Salcantay, which was absolutely stunning. And oh my God, it rained. Like, did it rain? Like, literally none of our rain gear survived. We were buying ponchos on the way down to try and save our rain gear because it was just torrential.
Poncho's your only man, really. Like, when it starts raining properly, like monsoon rain, like, you can have the best of Gore-Tex or whatever, but, like, you know, you just need a huge sheet of plastic over you is the only job. You know, everything else will fail, you know. It's such a special place. In 2019, so you went to 2018. In 2019, we changed our Peru itinerary because, like, I wouldn't say I enjoy watching people suffer, but, like, I like running expeditions where there's a real physical element to it. So our Peru trip was, like, amazing, as you've done, but it's not quite hard enough for me. So we've changed it around now. We go to it's a 16-day trip with 10 days of hiking, and there's 4 really, really tough days, where you gain over 1,000 meters a day in elevation. But we still have that day that you talk about, which is, to be honest, like, it meets the end of the trek you did, and it's, like, my favorite day of trekking anywhere in the world. It's when you basically walk down through this really thick jungle with loads of flora and fauna. You're kind of right beside this roaring river, and, like, you pass all these little huts, and they're selling little kind of hamlets, small little villages, and they're selling avocado and passion fruit. And then we go to the coffee plantation, and we get a coffee tour. We have that Pachamanca dinner, you know, where they bury the food in the ground and it's slow cooked.
That was absolutely fantastic as well. Like, the coffee plantation as well. Like, there was so much in that trip that. And I know you have it in the itinerary, but I feel like on both trips as well, as much as I have the detail in the itinerary, there's just so much more little extra details that's not quite, like, you're just like, oh, and this, oh, like, and there's more, you know, like, as in, you kind of just give the blunt detail, but there's so much in that.
So funny, when I was there, like, 2 years ago now, 2020 is the last year, but we have the coffee plantation, and everybody gets, like, you know, we roast coffee, and then we have a cup of coffee, and, like, on the trek for the last 8 days, people have been just having, like, you know, powder coffee, and then they have this stuff, and it's like rocket fuel, you know. It's like they're all after having about 6 or 8 pints, like, and they're all buzzing. And then we head down and finish off the day at the hot springs. It's just incredible. Like,
and the springs,
yeah, they're so good. And like, all the higher elevation, like, we've done most of the climbing on the trip, so people can have a few beers. It's not an issue. And yeah, it's a cracking day on that trip for sure. I really love it.
Yeah, epic.
Come here, tell me about, like, what you do changed and how you transitioned into what you're doing now. Talk to me about that.
I got bored with training in the gym. I got bored with lifting weights. Like, I was good at lifting weights, but I'd get to a certain weight and I couldn't go past it, or I'd end up with a dodgy knee or a dodgy hip or something. You know, like, I'd end up with a small injury, and I was getting annoyed and then couldn't train and da. So I got into yoga. I went to a yoga class, and that humbled me because I couldn't touch my toes. I was like, all these years of training, I was so disappointed. I was like, I thought I was doing something good for my body, and I couldn't even touch my toes. I couldn't bend over. I couldn't, like, the certain basic stuff that it looked basic in yoga, like, I couldn't do it there. And I was like someone who was training for years. It was just a sore realization, like, very, very sore. So I was like, you know what? I need different types of training. Like this, obviously the weightlifting has put me in worse position than what I'm intending it to. So did yoga, and then we were doing headstands, and then I got onto the factor of handstands. And if you knew me before, like I have never done anything gymnasticy or anything like that, right? So no coordination. And I was like, do you know what? That'd be a fun thing to try is handstands. And a friend of mine said to me, do you know that there's a place on a Saturday morning that does handstands and coffee, right? So I was like, I didn't. So he put me onto this place. And at the time as well, my friend that I was traveling to Peru with, I didn't drink coffee. And he was like, I'm going to get you drinking coffee because there's no way we're going to Peru and you're not drinking coffee. Like we're going to a coffee plantation. You're not turning your nose up at Peruvian coffee. So anyway, tied in with both. So I started going to handstands on a Saturday in the movement studio. And that also changed my life. So that was, I'd say, yourselves, Earth's Edge and the movement studio are the two big things that kind of really helped me find who I really am and what I like and what I really do enjoy. So I started doing handstands and started training at the studio. I was there 5-6 days a week if I could get away with it. And yeah, so then I started that in June. Peru was in October, and November I started my PT qualification while I was working. So I qualified the following March. So that would have been 19. Then decided to leave my job. I decided I was going to do PT full time. So that was it's like a big jump, right? But people think you're like, oh geez, you're mental. And I would have seen it as more of an exciting jump because I could see the potential. I couldn't see what I was leaving. All I knew, I was leaving something that I didn't quite enjoy to do something I loved, you know? So then I started working at the studio for Andy. I decided to go to Bali because you know the way we all see everyone on Instagram with coconuts and laptops, you know, living the online dream in Bali. So I was like, feck it, I'll give that a go. So I left my job and I went to Bali, and I didn't enjoy it. Like just straight up didn't enjoy it. Like beach is lovely, coconuts lovely, you know, heat, nice. But my people weren't there. You know, like I missed my friends. I missed the people. It was very different to being away in New Zealand or Australia. And came home. And when I came home, I literally came home as Andy, the owner of the studio, was him and his partner were having their second baby, and he had to take some time off. So I literally scooped right in there and started coaching and got myself a job as soon as I came back.
Perfect timing. Yeah, like I mean, I trained in the movement studio in 2019 as well, probably the same time you were starting to coach there.
Yeah,
just great people. But like when you're in Bali, like you're supposed to be living the dream again. Like what was it that you didn't like it? Like give us the Bali Uncovered story. Like what was the deal out there?
What was it actually like? So it was beautiful. Place is lovely, right? The beaches, like again, beaches, coconuts, you know, food, it's all gorgeous, and it's quite cheap to stay out there. It's a stark reality as well. There's people on their laptops and poor people. Like there is a lot of really, really poor people, and I found it just very difficult to watch. Like, you know, these people, and fair play to them, like, you know, they're running businesses from a laptop in Bali. Like, but I wasn't okay with the fact of sitting there with a laptop and the person that was serving me just being so poor as well. You know, like it's really, I don't know whether that's just my perspective of what I picked up on it. It was just a very big contrast of like rich people living in an area where there's quite a lot of poor people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, because I actually, like, I went to Africa the first time in 1990, working out there and leading trips and going on kayak expeditions, like way back when I was like 18, 19. I went to South Africa for the first time. I was there for a wedding, okay, and we were staying outside Cape Town. We were staying on the around False Bay. It's this huge bay where the sharks breach and eat the seals. I'm sure you've seen that in National Geographic. But basically, there's a huge, massive shanty town. Up behind that on the hill, you've got these gated communities with super nice plush houses and pools and security guards. And that's where I was staying. And I found the poverty really difficult, that I was in such a plush place and there was people just down the road like living in poverty. And I found it really interesting that basically my conclusion for that was when I was in East Africa, let's say like Uganda or Tanzania or Kenya, living out of a bag and in a tent, it doesn't bother me so much. But when I'm living in like 4 or 5 star really nice accommodation, it does bother me. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But I actually think it kind of, in some ways, reflects poorly on us, because what it says about me is that when I can't see poverty from where I'm living in Ireland, it doesn't bother me. But when I'm confronted with it, it does. It's kind of weird. Like, I don't think it's the best reflection on our mentality. But I definitely know what you're talking about. Anyway, I've had that emotion for sure.
Yeah, it was just very difficult. And I think it was one of those things where I kind of really found that one of my values are the people around me. Like that community that's in the studio it pulled me out of a hole, just like Kilimanjaro did a little bit. Like it really kind of like shone a light on stuff that I didn't see in front of me, in terms of like people being very important to me, because I don't know, when I used to travel so much, like not that I didn't miss people, but I was happy to go traveling and be like, bye, I'll see you when I'm back type thing. Didn't really focus on the fact that I missed anybody, but I missed that crew so much when I left for Bali.
Yeah.
Like I missed them terrible. It really showed me that I do need a community around me. Like I think I'd just grown in that last year to start to really find what really kind of floats my boat. And I was like, I'm in the perfect scenery here. Like even the villa like was really, really cheap, but really beautiful. Like it just, everything was like, again, tick box. It's like tick box, tick box. Looks good on paper, and I was just so not happy. Like just wasn't happy, and I just couldn't wait to get home. Could not wait to get back. And of course, again, timing was perfect because Andy needed the help in the studio at the time, and I was like, I'm here, I'm free, I've got nothing to do, let me help you. So
from what you're saying there about the different like jobs you gave up and changed your career, and like handstands and Kili, like did you learn that not to self-doubt, like have self-doubts, or is that something you always had, or like you seem to be able to kind of push past stuff and go for something once you get it in your sights? Is that something you had to learn, or were you always like that?
no, I think I was very good at like just going, feck it, just go, like Australia was very like that. I just sold the car and went and see what happens type thing. I'm very much open. Like I love the idea of not knowing what's going to happen. Like I've said this, like even to my partner, like I struggle with a big picture view. What will you be doing in a year? I have no idea, because I've made so many decisions in between that things could change. So I'm very, very open to change and exploring new things. Yeah, there was like, when I look back, the whole scenario, I think between the age of 60 and moving out, and between the time I came back from New Zealand, like I look back and I'd say they were dark times, like as in, I'm not going to be melodramatic here. There was great times obviously, but like in terms of me and my self-worth and what I wanted and who I was, like I didn't have a clue, and I'll probably say that again in another 10 years when I look back now, but I really didn't know. Like I was just like that in the job, and I drinking and just not happy with things, but still just continued on. So it's funny, in parts of life I let things go. It's like when you, instead of making life happen for you, it happens to you type thing. It's like where you just let the, you take the hand off the wheel and you end up somewhere where you didn't think you go, and it's only when you've gotten too far you're like, oh no. There's a saying of like, life throws you golf balls, and if you don't listen to the golf balls, you'll get a bowling ball. Like you'll get little warnings. You don't listen to those little warnings, it's going to turn into a big problem. Same thing with the body, like as in, you have a little injury, you don't look after them, it's going to turn into a big problem. So it's that kind of analogy. And it's like, it's those times like in New Zealand that really came to a head for me. And like that, I had to make a big transition and again, learn and again, feed into myself a little bit, find out what I really needed. And then probably towards the end of my time coming with the job, with the office job, I probably checked out mentally before I'd actually left. But like, again, that was a big struggle in terms of, there was a lot going on at that time, having to complete my PT exams, and I was also working full time. And then I was also in another gym, just trying to, rack up hours and trying to learn how to teach classes and things like that. So it was full on. And then that came to a head again. And then Bali was a very short period, to be fair, but that was a big light bulb moment. So now I think I'm not going to say I know it all, but like I've got a fairly good idea. I think COVID has obviously affected things as well. Like as in, like it's been very difficult to try and figure out what you need to do when all the stuff has been taken away. Like I'm doing life coaching at the minute, so I've had a few coaching sessions and I've been coached, and I again still learning stuff. Like I had to sit in a coaching session, got really emotional because they were like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Well, all my favorite things have been taken away from me. The outdoors, I can't even get past 5K. Like my social, I love being around people, and that and it was a really emotional session. That session, I bawled my eyes out, and it was just like having to realize all these things have been taken away. What do you do now? And now I had to pivot again, because I'm like, I found all these things over the last 3 years that really feed my soul, and
yeah, big time. Oh, I know it so well.
Yes. So this lockdown now, the third lockdown, I said to you yesterday on the phone, as in start bit, I was a little bit like, oh no, very emotional again. And it was around the time I had that same coaching session. So that poor person had to just listen to me cry. But yeah, now I'm in a good place. I think because this lockdown has lasted a little bit longer, like that, I've been given time to figure out what I can do, So it was the initial like, oh no, everything's gone again, and devastation. And then it's like, right, well, what can we do? Like, how can we get the same feelings, those fulfilling things? Like, what feelings do they give you? How do you get them? And can you get them in the same sense, just doing something slightly different? Like, and it's not going to be forever either. This thing is temporary. I think you just have to keep in mind ourselves. I know it feels like it's gone on forever, but
we'll get there. Every day that goes past, we're getting closer to the end, As you said, we were chatting yesterday about life coaching, and you're 31. Like, like a lot of people, life coaching is a bit of a dirty word, but like, are you trying to instill in people, like, to try and make some of those decisions that you did in trying to understand what makes you happy? Or like, just give me an overview of what life coaching is about, because I'll put my hand up and say, like, I will be one of those people that sometimes have had an eye roll to something like that,
Oh, I totally. I'm still with you. I'm studying it, and I still eye roll. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to do life coaching and not call it life coaching. You know what I mean? The struggle is real, but yeah, no. Look, I guess my idea of life coaching before I got into it was like, Jesus, it's one of these woo-woo things where you sit and you talk about your feelings, and it's like a lifestyle of therapy or something. Don't know what I really thought about it. And again, another friend of mine had done it and was like, I think you'd love it. And I was like, you know what? Even if I got personal development out of this, I'd be happy with it. So I absolutely love what it does in terms of like, I've now done like 19 pro bono sessions, right? So this is all part of my qualification. I've just do an hour session with people, and it's free because we're not qualified, and we get to kind of, it's our training effectively. I think it's the same as when you're on the mountain, when people say things out loud, and I don't know if you've had personal experience of this or experienced it with someone else, but like that freedom to speak, and there's no judgment on what you're saying. Nobody cares, and all of a sudden you don't even care. Like, as in, it's just a space where you can say exactly, like, things come out even, and you don't even realize. It's not like you've control, like you've meant for them to come out. Things just come out, and when you say them out loud, they're very different to when they're running around in your head. So when you speak these things out loud, like, there's a lot of realizations, and with life coaching as well, it's about empowering the other person. So you're never, like, as a coach, I'd never give anyone the answer, because you're taking that away from them. You're taking their ability away from them. So you help them come up with their ideas, their plans, their goals, the way they're going to do it. You just enable them to, to actually explore further. And it's like thinking outside your current box. Everyone has a way they think. They're in a mindset at the moment. We've all been conditioned a certain way and conditioned ourselves a certain way, and it's good to just be able to explore outside that box. Is there more options? Is there something else?
That's amazing. It's such a nice gift to be able to help people with, to try and get like fulfillment and happiness. Or we'll take it. It's funny, like, how organic the impact of getting out in nature and being on an expedition has. It's absolutely mad, isn't it? It's just coming up, like, kind of interviewed so many people now on the podcast, just chatting to people over the years. It's just coming up over and over again. It's just that headspace. It's amazing.
You just don't get it anywhere else unless you take it for yourself, and most people don't take it for themselves. That's it. Most people don't give themselves an hour in the day to shut off from everything and everyone around them. And some people can't, because, families and demands and things like that. Like, and I think the mountains just force you. That's it. There is no option. Like,
yeah, I know, it's special, isn't it?
It's needed.
So tell me this: what big trips do you want to do coming up in the next couple of years? Like,
in general, I'm at the moment, again, just like looking forward to finishing the course that I'm doing and making something of it, like really, really helping people change. I have Kenya booked with you guys for October.
Nice.
Can't wait.
It's such a cool trip.
Saying to you yesterday, like, it's going to be the one thing every single person needs once this lockdown comes out, like, as in just like a good solid time away with good people.
It's nice to have something to look forward to, isn't it? The other thing I want to ask you before I let you go, what would your top tips be for someone like thinking of doing Kilimanjaro and like they're struggling to pull the trigger on it? Like, what would you say to them? Like,
all I can say is go for it. It won't do any harm, and it'll only do some amazing good. You'll only get some amazing experiences out of it. Like, and even the fear might be, oh, what if I get sick? Or what if I can't get to the top? Do you know what? It doesn't even matter. Like, when you get onto the mountain, you come off the mountain, whatever way that may be, like, it's so worth it. Like, the people you meet, the place itself is actually lovely. It's like you said, like, when you go to Arusha and you're kind of living out of a bag and stuff like that, like, it's just, when you go on holidays and stuff like that, it is a break away from your life, but you're going into different type of trapping. So you're leaving a trapping for another trapping. Whereas I feel when you go on a trip with you guys, you're leaving everything. Like, everything is gone. And I've done these by myself. So I did Kili by myself, as in I didn't bring a friend, and it was just even more amazing because you just have the time to to do whatever you want. You don't have to count on a friend, let's say, or, you know, unless that's your thing. But you've got all these strangers, but they become best friends. Like by the end of the trip, like I said, I still got 2 extremely close friends out of that trip still, and I'd still be able to text the others, you know, like so. And that's from Kili. That was awesome. 3.5 years on now. So just do it. That's it. Just do it.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Delighted.
Pleasure, dude. All right, talk to you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. This podcast was produced by Earth's Edge. We're a small business based in Ireland who organise big adventures all over the world. For more information about us and the trips discussed on this podcast, visit earths-edge.com or follow us on Instagram. Don't forget to sign up to our mailing list to be in the running to win one of our summit jackets. There's a link in the show notes. And while you're there, if you could subscribe and review the podcast, that'd be brilliant. I'm your host, James McManus. Thanks for listening and have a super week.